Councilmember Arroyo,
Here.
Councilmember Bauer,
Here.
and Councilmember Burgell. I see her. She's over there.
Is it frozen again?
I think so, but I know she's in the meeting.
Okay. So we will move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Scott, can I ask you today to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
And I can take this and put it over to the flag. There we go.
Stay close to my computer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Mr. City Attorney, do we have a report out from closed session?
Yes, Mayor, no reportable actions were taken in closed session.
Thank you very much. So now we are going to move on to the mayor's announcements. I wanted to mention that we have finished what we thought was our last meeting of the strategic visioning session, but at the city manager's report, we'll learn a little bit more. I would like to let everybody know, though, that there will be some more public input process to that when we bring it back to council for approval. So looking forward to Director Slattery's update on that and looking forward to seeing what is all put together in the end. It was a great process and a really nice opportunity for us to get to work together and talk about what our vision is for the city. So thank you all for participating in that. The second thing I want to bring up came up after the agenda was sent out. So I'm looking for an easy consensus. It's an action alert from the League of Cities. There's a $350 billion COVID-19 relief bill for state and local fiscal recovery funds. And they would like us to send a letter of support, send a letter asking our representatives in Congress to support that. As of today, direct and flexible state and local aid continues to be included in the legislation, but it is at risk of getting pulled out. And that could be $350 billion. That includes $65 billion for cities. Particularly, they mentioned, the impact of loss of funds from things like TOT. And so if we could just get a thumbs up that we would like Congress to send the city some money, and we would ask the city manager to write that letter and let me sign it. Did anybody say no? All right, we're good to go on that. That was it. We will move on to the proclamations. Generally, I asked this in advance. We had a little bit of a hectic meeting before now. So I do know that we'll start with the second one, which is International Women's Day. And Katie Moulton, or Councilmember Moulton, has asked to read that one. So let's do that one first. And if anybody wants to ask for one of the others, let me know as they come up. Councilmember Moulton.
Thank you so much. It's my honor to read this proclamation. As you might know, I've done a lot of work helping out empowering women and girls locally and as far reaching as I can manage through North Star Quest Camp and other great stuff. But this isn't about me. This is about this. So the City of Eureka Proclamation in recognition of March 8th, 2021, International Women's Day 2021. Whereas International Women's Day began in the United States in 1909 and has been celebrated internationally since 1911 and is an official holiday in 28 countries, and whereas the holiday began as National Women's Day, first observed by the U.S. labor movement on February 28, 1909, to honor participants in the 1908 International Ladies Garment Workers Union strike. And whereas women and girls of every race, ethnicity, class, and gender identity are working for social and environmental justice, peace, and safety at every level from local to global. And whereas the benefits of women's historic social action continue to improve the world. And whereas the theme of 2021 International Women's Day is #ChooseToChallenge. It is a call to action that can be meaningful for each and every one of us. Each of us is responsible for how we speak and what we do. We are equally accountable for what we turn away from, what we don't say, and what we don't do. Whereas we thank our women and girls and we honor their ceaseless struggle for justice, peace, and harmony for all. Now, therefore, I, Councilmember Katie Moulton, on behalf of the Eureka City Council and Mayor Susan Seaman, do hereby recognize March 8th, 2021 as International Women's Day and encourage all community members to observe this day by participating in local events and working to create a more inclusive world where all genders are able to live to their fullest potential, free from discrimination, oppression, and violence.
Thank you very much. And I understand that this is a proclamation we're just reading into the record, and we will then move on to the next one. In the next proclamation, I'm really excited about this. Councilmember Burgell has asked to read it, but I am, I mentioned a lot. Journalism was something I'm really passionate about, and certainly really appreciative of the work being done by Kim Kemp at Redheaded Black Belt, and this commitment to diversity is even more special. So Councilmember Burgell will read, it's not a proclamation, it's a certificate to appreciate Kim Kemp of Redheaded Black Belt for COVID-19 information in Spanish. So do you have a copy of the certificate that you could show off?
Sort of. I'm sorry, I'm on my phone because my computer's not working. So
I'll show. It comes in a fancy folder, Kim, and when we send it to you, it won't have holes, but we all get our own copy so that we can appreciate it. Councilmember Burgell, since you were excited about this, do you have anything that you'd like to say to Ms. Kemp?
I would. I just want to tell you, Kim, how much I appreciate your willingness to do this extra special work. I think that oftentimes we have diverse communities that aren't included. And with the COVID information, it's been so important for all of us to have the appropriate information. And, I just appreciate that you just took the initiative to do that. And that just seems to be something that I've seen you do over time more than once. So this is just an opportunity that I found to honor you for being so awesome. Thank you so much.
I am so glad that we did find an opportunity, and I don't know if it was Kim that called in and wanted to do the recognition, but I'm really happy that you did. I also noticed, just because it's along the same thing, I think Redwood News has a Spanish language report as well that I've seen out there. But welcome, Kim Kemp from the southern parts of the county. Would you like to say anything?
I want to recognize really quick that Ryan Hudson is the person who has been doing the translations for me, and she's really awesome and puts in long hours doing it.
Very nice. Do you do it for every single story? What is your
the COVID stories, although just recently, if I find some other stuff like the Alzheimer's links to in Spanish that the local Alzheimer's Association gave me, I put those on there to make sure that as much health important issues are out there. If I could afford to do more, I would.
Thank you. Well, you have a pretty big program that's for a pretty small team, I think. So thank you so much for the work that you are doing for us.
Thank you.
And then our third recognition tonight is Champions for Children. And if you all don't mind, I will read this one. This is an event that I went to the other day. And it was quite fun, and I will mention all of the names of the recipients in here as well. So on February 23rd, Kiwanis Club of the North Coast had their Champions for Children event. Whereas for the past 5 years, the Kiwanis Club of the North Coast has honored individuals, organizations, and businesses dedicated to improving the lives of children in Humboldt County. And whereas investing time and money in children has been shown to increase educational attainment as well as physical health as they become adults. And whereas investing time and money in children also has been shown to decrease interactions with the juvenile justice system, fewer teens becoming parents, decreased levels of depression and anxiety, and less alcohol and drug abuse. And whereas 23% of the children in Humboldt County live in poverty, and 31% have reported having 4 or more adverse childhood experiences. And whereas Karen Mann, Derek and Cheryl Kingham, Early Literacy Partners Program, Burns Furniture, and Dale Warmoth are community members and organizations who are foster parents, club leaders, and mentors, teachers of reading, and funders of recreation programs, and are all the kinds of champions that makes positive change in the lives of children. And whereas the City of Eureka has adopted a Children and Families Initiative in 2019 with the mission that we will all be champions for children and families in our community. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Susan Seaman, and the Eureka City Council proclaim our appreciation for the Kiwanis Club of the North Coast for recognizing and celebrating champions for children, and to this year's award recipients. So did anybody from North Coast Kiwanis come today? I don't think I sent anybody a Zoom link, but I did invite them so they could just show up and phone in. I'm sorry, wasn't able to get anybody here tonight. It was a really lovely event. It's a lovely event that they do that, so I appreciate it. I appreciate that they have been recognizing people who help out kids. That's a good thing. With that, then, we will go ahead and move on to presentations. Today, we have Betty Chin here, and she will be giving us an update on Betty's Annex.
Yeah.
Hey there.
Hi.
Go ahead. You can,
I thought Kristen would do the slides.
Kristen is, I'm sorry, Kristen, Miles told me it was, you might be here, but that it was Betty's show.
Is she gonna do
My
it?
fault, I forgot
He's
the
here.
slideshow. Hi, K Ray. Hi, Betty.
Hi.
So go ahead, Kay Ray. Oh, you're muted. Are you muted? Kristen? There you go.
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so we are going to let Betty do the presentation or I'm sorry, I don't. How about now?
Now it's better.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know what I could do.
It's not so bad now. So if you're going to hand it over to Betty, you can introduce her.
Yes, I'm going to hand it over to Betty, let her do her report, and then I will do the presentation or the slideshow afterwards.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. We opened a women's shelter and Annex at the cross street from us. And during the COVID-19, I see a woman abused by Ryan sit on the sidewalk with the children, and that broke my heart. And because the COVID affect people's psychological and anger behave so much. So I have 3 different country women, and I know about it. So when the landlord asked me, say, Betty, I have a place for rent. Do you want to use for something? It's so close to the center. And I said, let me go take care of a couple of friends first. So I asked my neighbor, Mark Diaz, the car dealer. I asked him, am I okay to open a women's shelter in here? And he said, Betty, if you do it, and you go forward. Then the neighbor say, okay. And then I reach out the up left. And I asked them, I said, I had a place, I have my neighbor support me, and then can I do this? And then a mile and up left people come over and say, do it, Betty. So we open the middle of the COVID, and it's amazing how much it affected people's life. And we had 3 different country family with the children. We had a kid for 7 years having sleep on the bed, first time, and such a touch your heart. And then we tell the woman when they come in, we had a single woman. They can be a mentally ill. I had one. I had a disabled, and I had one just get kicked out by a landlord, nowhere to go, and after 25 years of living in the house. So I tell to all the women come in and the children, they need to heal. It's on time limit for them. I want to get healed and then do and then go next step. So we try a lot of legal help for some children with the family, and a lot of counselor with different agencies. We hook up with the different agencies can help them, the children and the mom and then the woman. So, and amazing, we had 3 families move out with the permanent housing already, and 2 single women move out already, found a permanent housing, and 1 lady come in doesn't talk because got abused so much, and she lived the silent world, and then now she can talk. So that's amazing how much you see the affect them at the safe place and peaceful, and they get healed. And I tell them, don't worry about anything, just get yourself healing first from whatever you suffer. So we do have them ladies get the job, work for the motel, be a cleanup lady, or and all kind of like about minimum pay job. So we had right now we had 3 one place been in and out for 3 times already. I saw Kristen the other day. That space been lived for 3 families, but no damage, nothing wrong in their own. And then they take it themselves. And then 1 woman having smiled for 5, 6, 7 years, and now smile. And that's what pay off. Without city to help to be a part of this, I don't see how I can do it. And because that's a difficult time and COVID, and then you cannot ask for donation. You cannot ask anybody anything to help because we are all in the same boat. But Maya and the uplift group come over and say, yeah, let's do it. And then Sergeant LaFrance and Ben the book helped me set up the center and get me a book, and his wife get me a lot of new clothes for the children moving in. They had new clothes. Some kid doesn't have the clothes to wear, still wear short in the middle of May, and then still very cold. And then they bring some new clothes, new shoes for the grow up and the children and all the kids. And then the uplift group, the job training, they send the 3 guys come and help me remodel the place. So really, without your guys' help, and I don't see how I can make it happen. But again, the program is absolutely wonderful. In next month, we had a group from Oregon come over to visit us, want to use us for the model, and also want to use our policy because COVID affects so many people behave, especially the man, or the man in my case, and they always get invited and abused to the woman. So they wanna learn about that area because we open up the shelter in the middle of this difficult time. So, and a lot of people been calling us, and then I encourage them, talk to the city, maybe partnership with the city, maybe we help. But I'm very, very lucky. I had all your guys support me, and then I will do our best. And then thank you, everybody. And then I hope you guys can come to visit us. Until now, we had 0 cases of COVID. We had 0 cases, and everybody really worked together. And then they follow how shelter in place model. They did not really go to get in trouble, go out to have fun, that kind of stuff. They take care of the place. And then we had somebody come from Stanford and look at the place and say, Betty, I don't look at this as shelter. This is really the home for the women and children get healed. And then all this story broke your heart when you listen to them. Even they don't tell you, you can see the pain in the heart, in the soul. So, and then the healing process is absolutely wonderful. But I really appreciate all you guys, all this council and support me. And I do invite all the new council members come to visit me and see that. Don't just listen to me. I want you to see it. Okay, I'm done.
All right, Kristen, you have a slide deck for us?
I do. Can you give me access?
I can't, but Pam can.
Okay. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna move this over here. There's a couple things that I want to focus on. In Betty's update report that she gives us annually, she gave a nice, there was a little portion that I wanted to include. So on first, Betty's Annex was opened on September 8th of 2020. It's located at 205 7th Street in Eureka. Betty's Annex is the largest project to be carried out by Betty Quan Chin's Homeless Foundation. This project is intended to serve women with children, as well as single women over the age of 65 for a period of up to 6 months. With the
Can I interrupt you, Karen, for just a sec? Do you think we're looking at the slides? We're just looking at the front page of the slide right now?
Oh, let me see. Can you only see?
We could see the full PowerPoint and the mini and the slides on the side, but not as a,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, better?
There you go. That's
Okay.
better.
So, and then they have the possibility to stay longer than 6 months as a case by case basis. Can you guys, what one are you guys? Okay, here we go.
That was the one you just read, I think. Yeah, there you go.
To service women experiencing, or I'm sorry, Betty's vision and hope to service women experiencing homelessness in our community, especially those fleeing domestic violence or language barriers. The need for services specifically for women has only become more visible since the emergency of the COVID-19 pandemic, where many women are having to balance dual needs of attending work and caring for their children while sheltering in place is in effect. This is the common areas of Betty's facility.
It's beautiful.
And the quilts that are in the back, that are photoed in the back, were all donated to Betty's program. This is her classroom, which includes a table that has a laptop on there for Zoom meetings and different school activities. This is a single person room, which is pretty roomy. The location of it was hard to get one single photograph of it, and so I did it in 2 different portions. This is her family room, which can hold a mother and a couple children. And Betty also had another room, but she had a family that was in there, so I wasn't able to take any photos of that room.
That was really lovely. Does anybody have any questions for Kristen or Betty. Kim, Councilmember Burgell.
Can we
I
make
have
comments? Can we make comments now?
Yeah, it's just a report or presentation. So yes.
Great. So I was able to go down and tour the facilities a few times actually now, and it is such a beautiful space, and that is such an important piece. People don't realize, but you know, having that beauty surrounding you really makes a huge impact in your healing and in your growth. And so I just want to thank Betty and the team and the people that have been successful in the program for their willingness to show up and get better. I mean, it really is an awesome thing. And it's just one more thing. It just, you know, it's one more thing that the city is doing to move forward in this healing process with our homeless population and with our community. So I really appreciate everything that you've done, Betty. The quilts are fabulous. And you know, one thing I wanted to say is I was amazed. Betty was showing me some of the rooms where families had lived. And you know, we've all had, well, many of us have had little kids, and you know how they are writing on the walls and doing all that stuff. Those rooms were spotless. They were impeccable. And they were just so clean and pristine. And what a great place for people to come and have an opportunity to heal. So thank you so much. Appreciate it in so many ways.
Councilmember Arroyo.
Well, thank you, Betty and Kristen. Thank you for the presentation. And I just wanted to ask a quick question. I know when this was first proposed, there were a few concerns from neighboring businesses. Could you speak to what the relationship is like with the businesses nearby? Is it going well? And yeah, how's that transformed?
Well, I'm really lucky. My neighbor really like it. And then Mark Diaz is a bigger neighbor, and he owned a car dealership in here. And then I did change the door from 7th Street to the 6th Street. So not many of our people in and out on the 7th. They had the business there. And then Mark said I had no problem. Actually, we had a 9-man call out to walk 3 blocks around our place. And right now we don't have any more homeless people sleep around here, even in their car dealership. And Mark really appreciate what I do, because we make sure the people, if they had a problem, come in the morning, come to talk to Betty, see what she can help you. So we don't see anybody there anymore, all the way to Starbucks coffee shop. We don't see anybody sleep there very much anymore. We go out to there, and so I talk to a lot of people there too. My neighbor really love me. And they come in to see the shelter themselves. And then so they okay with me. Yeah. I respect my neighbor. Be a good neighbor is our #1 priority. And I want to say one thing, thank you to our city manager, take action so fast to make this happen.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Betty. It's great to hear that has, I know there were some concerns because it was new, and new things are sometimes just hard to take. So good. I'm glad it's been going well.
Yeah, even Peggy come to look at it and donate stuff to me. They love it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
On that new comment, I heard a mayor from somewhere else say earlier this week, the only thing the community hates more than status quo is change. So, and Councilmember Castellano.
Hi, Betty. Hi, Kristen. Thank you so much, Betty, for all of your work in the community. I just really appreciate your kind of positive, can-do attitude. And, you know, I mean, and you didn't speak to it tonight, but also how quickly you address people's food needs recently as well. You know, you're just always willing to go the extra mile for people in our community. So thank you so much. We're really, I think I can speak on behalf of council that we're so thankful that you're here, and your work is much appreciated.
Thank you. Can I say one more thing? And
yes.
Since I partnership with the city, I've left really helped me teach how to partnership, work together for the community. And believe or not, the Pep of the Payday app and the uplift is really helped me. We as the citizen in the city, we have worked together. That's why right now the Oregon group come over here, want to learn how we can work with, how they can work with the government. And then all the programming city had it. I work with them. So teach me come out be myself the comfort zone. But now I come out, work together, whatever the gap needed, we fill the gap. I can do our best to do it. And then very much, this is a beautiful city. This is my city, my home. So we want to make it better and also respect the people less fortunate than you and me too.
I also got to tour Betty's place before, as it was getting opened, as before anybody had moved in, and so much excitement anticipating the people who were going to be able to move in and find some comfort and peace in a time which is just really tumultuous and scary for the people who have the most security, especially for people who might not know where they're going to sleep the next day. So what a completely wonderful thing you have offered. And I noticed Councilmember Bauer had his hand up too.
Yeah, Betty, I just want to thank you and your whole organization. And I wish we could clone you and put you all over the world, because there's so many cities that face this problem and of homelessness and abuse, just thank you. Yeah, and appreciate all you do.
Please come and visit us,
I
okay?
will.
You gotta know where your money go, okay?
Bet.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Betty. Thank you for your presentation too, Kristen. It was beautiful and nice to be able to see what everything looked like.
Thank you. Good night.
All righty. Yeah. Bye-bye. All right. Next on the agenda is public comment. So do we have anybody here who is here for public comment tonight, or are you speaking on an item on the agenda? So if you do want to speak, just raise your hand and I'll have, do we have any hands up, Pam, that you can see?
No, Mayor, I do not see anyone. Oops, hang on. I don't see anyone.
Okay, then we will move on to the consent calendar. I understand we don't have anything, but was there anything that I missed that somebody wanted to pull from here? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, so Councilmember Bauer and Burgell. Can we get a roll call vote now, please?
Councilmember Castellano,
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton,
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo,
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer,
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell.
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
All right. Next up, I would like to invite Director Gerving to speak to us about the pedestrian crossing improvements 2021. We got you in the front of the agenda this time, Director.
I know, I think
Gerving.
first time ever. It's like a public works show this time. It's great.
I made sure they did that for you.
Mayor, I think that's just because there's no consultants with them.
That's right. So just to check, you have the presentation up in front of you there?
We do.
Okay, great. So we are here this evening to talk about citywide pedestrian crossing improvements 2021 project. It's going to be probably the biggest safety project we've done, as far as how broadly across the city it's distributed, and will result in some really great improvements. Bear with me. Okay, there we go. So it is funded through the Caltrans Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP grant. In this case, it was the grant round from 2018. So that gives you a bit of context as to how long it takes to get through the grant cycle. Right now, we're waiting on the results from the HSIP 2020 applications. And then after the award, takes about 2 more years to get to construction. It is 100% grant funded. There's no city match required. And in this case, we're going to be funding improvements at 35 locations across the city. Those locations were chosen by collision history, pedestrian use, and other factors. You'll see that a lot of the work that's going to be completed this year came out of the Henderson Center planning process a couple of years ago. Overall, the project is a little over $1.1 million, and construction is scheduled to begin this spring and conclude in the fall. And the improvements run the gamut from bulb outs and curb ramps to crosswalk markings, pedestrian activated warning lights like you see here near Silvercrest, along with lighted stop signs and radar feedback signs. So we're going to go in a little bit more detail in this, but you can see here the 35 locations across the city where the work is going to be performed. It really is spread out pretty much all over the city. Zooming in on some specific areas, we see little colored circles at the bottom that represent the project type. Bulb outs are in green, and that's the majority of what's happening with this project. A new crosswalk is the black circle. Out on Fairway Drive, as we have that little inset, you can see that there's a radar feedback sign happening near the golf course. And then looks like a curb ramp and bulb out nearby, along with a bulb out at Hodgson Street. Like I said, a lot of the work is concentrated in Henderson Center with bulb outs and LED flashing stop signs there on J Street at both Henderson and Boone. Really a lot of improvements all over the place. All told, 25 locations where bulb outs are going to be installed with 74 bulb outs, 27 sidewalk locations, a little over 13,000 square feet worth, 8 pedestrian warning lights, 2 LED stop signs, like I said, on Boone and Henderson at J, 2 radar feedback signs, 2 audible pedestrian signals, 2 additional curb ramps, and 27 crosswalk marking locations. Many of those coincide with the bulb outs. So what do these look like? Here is one example at Boone and J. You've got the LED flashing stop signs on J Street with bulb outs at all 4 corners, really shortening that crossing distance for pedestrians, making it safer to cross the lanes of travel, and also serving to slow down the through traffic on Boone Street as they feel it neck down. Other improvements, as I mentioned, include the lighted LED stop signs, audible pedestrian buttons at signals, pedestrian activated flashing beacons, and radar feedback signs. So what's next? Can we do something else with the funding? No, we can't. Unfortunately, once we submit the grant application, which like I said, in this case was in 2018, the project locations are set. We fine tune the design through that process after the grant is awarded and before we put the project out to bid. That bidding has been done, and we'll get to the recommendation here in just a second. Will the grant include paving the road? No, it won't. We've tried before to make that argument, and we've lost each time. But the good news is that we are going to see, as City Engineer Willer presented in the CIP at the last meeting, we're going to see a significant increase in paving work as a result of Measure H. And as Council is aware, this year in particular, because of that long-awaited STIP funding for several streets in particular. There were 4 bidders on this project, with RAO Construction, one of the 2 local bidders, coming in with the low bid with a construction cost of right around $1.1 million. And we're asking for council to award that tonight with an anticipated start date next month, and tentative completion would be in September of 2021. You've got staff's recommendation in front of you in your agenda, and if you're inclined, you can just say that you move staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Director Gerving. Does anybody have questions? Nobody has. I have one question, and I don't know a lot about this, but I understand. So when you have your bulb outs, and then I saw you have the little yellow bumps that go into the road. The ones in in front of the high school went into a crosswalk, but I understand that people use those to sort of get direction about where to go. How come we have them pointing out to the middle of the road and like the diagonal positions?
So there's a bit of, those are called truncated domes, and truncated domes are one type of what's called a detectable warning. And a detectable warning surface is something that serves to provide people that are visually impaired a warning that they're about to go into a hazardous area. In this case, what the code calls a hazardous vehicular way. You might also see them at transit stops, train platforms, and that kind of thing. And those bumps, those truncated domes, are supposed to be aligned with the direction of travel. And at a typical crosswalk in Eureka, where you've got two crosswalks coming together at a corner on a radius and not necessarily two separate curb ramps there, what we often see, and this is not just something you see in Eureka, but elsewhere as well, is one set of truncated domes on the diagonal. And those bumps aren't necessarily intended from a code standpoint to provide direction to people. This is the way you go. They're just intended to provide an awareness of a hazard that's present. And the reason that they're supposed to be in the direction of travel is so that they aren't too much of a hindrance to people using walkers or wheelchairs or something that needs to go through there. So long explanation. There are people that hate truncated domes and people that like truncated domes, and I can tell you no one likes installing them.
And thank you for answering that. I don't know a lot about them, but I get a lot of questions. So, all right, Councilmember Arroyo.
Thank you so much. I'm beyond thrilled to be talking about this. I just had a couple questions. Could you repeat or reiterate where the radar feedback signs are going?
Let's see. Let me look at the picture.
Okay.
So radar feedback signs, and I know you don't have it in front of you, are yellow dots. So it looks like we have those. Gosh, it's really difficult for me to tell from this map, and I apologize. But I can promise to get back to you with that. It's 2 locations, I can tell you that. And I just don't have in front of me where they are. I apologize.
That's okay. 2 new ones is better than no new ones.
Right.
And then I remember when this came up as something the Henderson Center Merchants Association was helping to give input on and plan for, there was some discussion of landscaping and beautification. Is that at all a part of this project, or is this just the built elements without the landscaping?
So staff has been communicating with the Merchants Association regularly. We sought their input on what sort of treatment they wanted for the bulb outs themselves, stamped concrete, exposed aggregate, all kinds of different options. I honestly can't remember which one they settled on, but they did settle on one and we went with that. And then we've been working with them to figure out a type of landscaping that they can maintain going forward. And so that's something where we are basically going to provide the space, and the Merchants Association in partnership with the city is going to do that landscaping and maintain it going forward.
Okay, great. And I remember there were also some like other elements that certainly are not funded by HSIP, but we're going to happen around the same time, like banners and stuff to like kind of beautify and help establish more of a like unanimous or a look for Henderson Center. Are those things happening at the same time, to your knowledge?
We've been talking about those, and I haven't been in all of those conversations, but yeah, we're trying to coordinate that and make sure that whatever the Merchants Association wants to do there, we're doing the best we can to accommodate it and help to make it happen.
Okay, cool. And one final question. I was just checking out some small town cute things in another town recently and saw fun facts about the town stamped into the sidewalk, and got kind of fired up about that idea and thought, next time we do sidewalk work, I wonder if someone could come along and stamp fun stuff in the sidewalk. So I realize it couldn't be funded necessarily as part of this, but I'm curious if there's an opportunity to do any fun stuff with the sidewalk while the concrete is wet.
Sometimes people have too much fun doing stuff with the concrete once wet. We'll look into that. Great idea. If you have examples, if you took any pictures, please send them over.
I did. I took too many pictures. All right, I'll send them your way. Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions? Councilmember Bauer.
Yeah, this is great work, Brian. That was a 2018 grant application. Do you anticipate that we're going to do another area of the city, or what's the thoughts on that?
So, right, this is the 2018 grant application. We got the word back in early 2019, and then it takes a couple years basically to get to construction. Our 2020 application, the big focus there was the H&I corridor, what was referred to as the North-South Multimodal Corridor Plan. And that one, we are waiting Caltrans headquarters. They've pushed out their own internal deadline a few times. The announcements were supposed to come out in early February, and it was mid-February, and it was March 1st, and now it's March 15th. In any case, we hope that we're successful with that one. And if we are, then we would look to go to construction for the H&I corridor project in a couple years here, and it would coincide with Measure H funded paving of both H&I streets, those portions that weren't already done really recently.
I was just wondering too about, will it be, are we thinking further on down the road, other projects?
Yeah, we're always looking. I mean, every time there's an HSIP call for projects, we submit multiple applications, and we are ordinarily very successful with those. That's a double-edged sword, because the reason you're successful with HSIP grant applications is because you have a high collision rate, because all of those projects are evaluated based on a benefit over cost ratio. And so the collisions are monetized. Basically, there's a certain value associated with non-injury, injury, fatal collisions, and you look at that versus the cost of the project, and the relationship between those two is what determines whether the project gets funded. So that being said, that we've been successful, and it's because of collisions. We do have the Transportation Safety Action Plan trying to get those collision rates down. And honestly, we have, because we've been so successful with these HSIP grant applications, we've kind of done the easy stuff. We've done the things that are basically acceptable to everybody. And I would say that the H&I Street project is the first one, if it comes to fruition because of the HSIP application that's out right now. That's the first one where that's a controversial issue. It was when the council adopted that plan back in, what was it, 2017 or 18, I think. And the project, if it goes to construction, will probably also be controversial. So if we have future HSIP funded projects, they're going to be probably a little more novel than what we see here. Typical things like bulb outs and crosswalks and flashing beacons. So what form those might take, I'm not sure, but we're always evaluating it.
Councilmember Burgell, I saw you kind of around your camera. Was one of those a wave? Okay. If we don't have any more questions, I'll move on to public comment. All right. Assistant City Manager Powell, do we have any kind of order, or do you want me to just call people? Oh, you're muted.
I didn't take signups this time as we have our number on the air now so that people can call in. So if they can raise their hand, I can, if you can't see them, I can definitely see them if they know how.
Excellent. So you could either use the raise hand feature, or if you have your camera on, you could physically raise your hand and I will call on you. Kate, I think you wanted to speak, right? All right. So we'll start with you.
Well, thank you for letting me interject. I'm part of the Slow F Street crowd, and we're interested in the Henderson Center Rosewood neighborhood area and how that kind of intersects. And so we do have a Measure Z funding application out there. Of course, it's highly competitive. But one of our real concerns is that if we do get the street light that's been applied for, that overspill traffic is going to come down E Street instead and really impact Henderson Center. And so I guess what I'm hoping for is Mr. Jerving, I know that we've got this HISIP or whatever this grant is that you're speaking about is coming open again. And I'm wondering if it's possible to start looking at that before it impacts everybody. And hopefully we can be looking at a really welcoming entryway into Eureka, but also recognizing this is a neighborhood out here and that people need to have safety and go slow. Our biggest concern is that the monitoring of the road has been done like for 1 hour at 10 o'clock in the morning when there's not a rush hour traffic, and the statistics that really reflect on what we're experiencing out here aren't the same. And so what we're hoping for is that while we're thinking about these processes and we're projecting into the future, that somebody is being prepared for what's coming, and also what, you know, like school started this week and we've got a flood of traffic and the accidents have started again. So we're just hoping that people are paying attention, or that we can get on a list where we're part of this process to raise our hand and say we need a different monitoring and outcome measurement system.
Thank you, Kate. And you know, you could reach out during in between the meetings as well and have actual conversations. It's a little harder in public comment and we can't.
Thank you.
Zena, do you have a comment? You guys have that nice background, so I have a feeling I know what you're here to talk about. The others are a little more tricky. Go ahead.
That's Zena's doing, by the way.
Hi, thank you for taking my comment. My name is Zena. And yes, I'm also a member of the Slow F Street group. You know, my family and I have lived on F Street since 2008. And when we chose to live in this area, we were hesitant because there's no parks in this neighborhood. And when we realized we really couldn't afford any other areas, we were ultimately swayed by the fact that we live close enough to the Henderson Center to walk there and to be centrally located so that we can easily ride our bikes to what's now the Hickshari Trail, as well as Old Town and down to the foot of the bay and even Sequoia Park. But within a week of moving into our home, directly in front of our house, I witnessed a terrible car accident with a car flipping upside down, and children who were on their way to school were trapped inside. What I didn't realize at that time is that this was just the first of an ongoing problem. And in the 13 years that I've lived in this neighborhood, I've seen more reckless driving, car crashes, road debris from crashed cars, near misses. I can't even count how many near misses I've seen. I've consoled grieving neighbors who have witnessed similar accidents and others who knew pedestrian fatality victims from past accidents on this street. I've watched neighbors who have had to jump out into heavy speeding traffic so that vehicles will stop long enough for Grant Elementary School's children to cross the street when they come and go from school. Over the years, traffic along F Street has continued to increase in volumes and in speed. And the more congested Broadway becomes, the more this pushes vehicles, including huge, fast-moving semi-trucks, onto this street. Unfortunately, F Street has been neglected, and this corridor needs to be modernized with crosswalks, pedestrian-activated warning lights, bulbed-out curbs. I'm so happy to hear all these things are happening with the HSIP is what you guys are calling that grant, I believe. So F Street could be a calm and charming link into a vibrant Henderson Center. And as a major Eureka entry and exit, I'd really like to see the city invest in things like tree planting and more signage, and just there's so many ways that we can enhance this area. So I really look forward to working together on this and working to improve safety and livability of this neighborhood. I thank you for taking my comments.
Thank you very much. I do believe Debbie Hart, did you want to speak on this issue?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Debbie Hart, and I have my Slow F Street sign behind me here. And I want to echo what Zena and Kate have said, and also thank you for giving this presentation about the vision for Henderson Center and some pedestrian safety. Zena doesn't give herself enough credit. She's very talented and has really pulled this group together. So I want to thank her publicly for all of the work that she's done with the graphic design and community outreach to pull us together. I too, as a Rosewood community member, have great visions for pedestrian bridge and making F Street a really nice entrance to Eureka, because people are using it anyway. So we would love to see, the charm of Eureka reflected in that entryway into Eureka. And I hope that you will support us as we try to support this traffic light at F and Oak Street. And that'll, of course, is coming up. We know that's competitive, but we hope that that's something that that you could be working with the county together with. And thanks again for your time.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I can't see anybody else. So Assistant City Manager Powell, does anybody have their hand raised?
I do not see anyone at this time.
Okay. I'm gonna go once, going twice. All right. I think I will assume that everybody who wanted to has spoken, and I will bring it back to council for comments and a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve staff recommendations to accept the bid, if that's a good enough recommendation.
Okay, I was gonna call on Councilmember Vergel because you're very excited.
Second thought, though.
I was gonna say, but we have a motion, so we have a second. Now for discussion, I'll ask Councilmember Vergel. Nope, I think she just wanted to make the motion too.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm really looking forward to this project happening. It's really difficult to be on your phone in this meeting. I'm just gonna say that. It's really odd, but I think this is gonna be awesome for our community. Thanks.
All right, any other discussion on this item? Councilmember Vergel, then Castellano. I'm sorry, Arroyo, then Castellano.
Oh, I just wanted to say some thanks. Little mini Oscar speech. I just wanted to thank the F Street folks for being so committed to being organized in the neighborhood, and for pushing for improvements both in city and county jurisdiction. I think that's really meaningful, and it's really encouraged me to reach out to county counterparts, and so thank you very much for being so engaged. And I am really excited to see this project move forward. I was thrilled to be able to work on it in its early phases with the Henderson Center Merchants Association, really asking for this, and staff being able to go to bat for it. And I wanted to thank Swan for really going to a lot of those meetings and getting feedback and taking that input, and give appreciation to our current and former staff, including Rob Homeland, for helping to really coordinate with them as well. So thank you for pursuing this, and I'm super, super excited to see this. This is probably the project I'm most amped about this year. And Henderson Center is a gem for Eureka, and it's absolutely a neighborhood center. It's a huge sales tax generator. So when we talk about economic development, like a more walkable, more enjoyable Henderson Center is good for everybody. It's good for business and it's good for the city. So I'm so excited. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano.
I just wanted to thank you, Director Gerving, for bringing this forward and for, seeing this project through. And to Councilmember Arroyo's point about the sidewalk Eureka facts, I also think just there are ways of bringing in poetry or art or, any of that kind of placemaking stuff that always seems extra, but that actually makes a huge difference in how people perceive and experience the place. I think that would be beneficial. Often it doesn't cost a lot to have some extra touches about that, but it will over time have a big effect on the community.
And before I call for a vote, I just want to say that in our strategic visioning session, every single council member placed transportation safety as one of the very highest priorities. And so coming out of that and seeing the work that's already being done, it's like, yay, we're already ahead. We're already working on, I know we are on a lot of stuff anyways, just feels really good. So thank you very much. And now Assistant City Manager Powell, let's have a vote on this.
Alrighty, Councilmember Castellano.
Aye.
Oh, Councilmember Moulton.
Yes.
Councilmember Arroyo.
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer.
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell.
Yes, and I did have a quick comment. I wanted to also recognize the efforts of the neighborhood. We've got 3 groups in our city right now that are neighborhood groups that are working together to improve their neighborhoods. And it's really exciting. It's wonderful to see, and I'm grateful that we can all work together. So thank you for that.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Yay. That felt good, didn't it? So let's move on to item D2. We have Project Manager Kelly Allen here to talk to us about the RCEA Pilot Solar Program.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. I am very excited to be bringing this solar project and funding source before you tonight. This presentation was given last night to our Eureka Energy Committee, and they are in full support of it, as well as staff supports full build out of these locations, with the exception to City Hall's parking lot on L Street, as it may be used for affordable housing in the future. Staff has been working with Redwood Coast Energy Authority for the past few years to reduce energy usage at multiple sites and studying these locations that would be most viable for solar. Staff has chosen City Hall, Tank Farm, and the water treatment plant as our first sites to move forward with solar, as they will be paired with battery backup systems. To provide you with more technical aspect of this project is Mike Abcali from Redwood Coast Energy Authority.
Hi, Kelly, and hi to the council members all and everyone else from the public who's attending. Thanks for staying late in the meeting to hear our presentation. I do have a slideshow queued up. If I can share screens, is that okay? Share my content? Okay. And then just take me a second to make sure that my PowerPoint is set up in correct mode. So let me just go to slideshow and start from the beginning. And I'm going to swap my presenter view. Do you see the full screen presentation now?
Yes, we
Great.
do.
Thank you. Okay, so Kelly gave a really good introduction. Redwood Coast Energy Authority launched our program that we call our Public Agency Solar Program in 2018. And we've been working with city staff on and off for a lot of that time. The city was one of the first agencies to apply for our program. And Real quick, I'll just go through some of what we do when we work with cities and schools, community services district, any public agencies like that are qualified for our program. We look at electric load, so how much electricity is used at a particular site. We want to look at energy efficiency options that are available at those sites as a way of reducing energy use on site before we think about going out and doing our solar site assessments. So then we'll look at what is the potential for installing solar at a site. So when we know a little bit more about how much energy you've used and where we might be able to save energy, we're also going to take a look at how we could generate energy on site with solar. So we get into identifying and providing technical assistance that could help identify which projects are more feasible and fundable. So, looking for funding sources is part of, and if a project is fundable, that's part of what makes it feasible. And then, we work with public agencies through the contracting process, again, providing kind of our technical support and some of our staff time where some of our public agencies don't have those resources. In the case of the city of Eureka, I think you do have a lot of resources, but it's still great to work on our area of expertise as the energy authority and kind of bring that to work with city staff on what can be exciting and interesting projects. So Kelly also laid out the sites of interest for this phase. Now we have, just in respect to the great work that your staff has done and that we've done, we did look at a lot of different sites. In 2018 and 19, we did energy efficiency upgrades at a lot of different sites. We did LED lighting replacements that were low cost and no cost for the city. But Kelly really did hit an important factor, which is that, and I think council knows about this, you're in negotiations with Tesla through the state's self-generation incentive plan. The city had several sites that were qualified for incentives for battery systems, and solar and on-site storage pair very well together. There are some synergistic benefits, and that is why I really think staff made a good narrowing a choice as we looked at all of our many options. To look at the sites where you're going to have battery backup is a really good place to start. So that's some of my background information, just getting us up to speed. And what you see in front of you is an image of City Hall and a table to the left of that image. So we really did look at any option where we thought we had a good solar window, a good opportunity to install solar at City Hall. And what you'll see in my table here, I'm just going to kind of try to walk through this table, at least on this slide, a little slowly, so that folks know what we're looking at. When we go through these tables, it might look like a lot. As you start to see the pattern, I think you'll see we're trying to quantify a few things. The different options, roof array 1, you can see I've tried to label here. There are different areas on the roof. And so that's the first thing you're going to see is just the label that we gave it. What's the location? The system size in solar, we'll talk about kilowatts. So this is a 26 kilowatt array that we think could fit right here on rooftop area number 1. And from those 26 kilowatts, we think you'll save this much energy, almost 34,000 kilowatt hours. That's about 14% of the site's annual energy use based on the last year of electric data. And it's about, you'd offset about 6% of your bill by installing this one solar array at this option. And then down here, it's a continuation of the same table. This is still roof array number 1 that we're looking at. We just couldn't fit it all onto the slide this way. So we went up and down with it. And so you can see this same roof array number 1 that I was discussing was 26 kilowatts. You would save about $3,500 a year. And we have an estimated project cost. We use past project history as a way of estimating costs. This is not an engineer. This isn't a contractor's bid. These are conceptual at this point, but we have a lot of experience with this through other past projects and through some analytical tools so that we've come up with the numbers that you see in the table here. This is the kind of technical analysis RCEA is trying to bring to help inform city staff and city decision makers and city council about the various benefits that some of these systems can bring. We also left it in a kind of a menu format here and not presupposing what the best option is. We laid out all of the options my job as an analyst is to really try to get my numbers right and to give that information so that you can make the decision on, what's good, what's bad, what's worth it, what's not. What project is worth moving forward on. I think one of the ways Kelly has described this is this is, and I read the agenda item, so seeking council's direction on which of these projects. So that's me introducing you to my work and the tables that you'll see. Now I'll just go back to really briefly talking about City Hall itself. City Hall is a big energy user. It's a critical facility for the city. The rooftop areas are limited in the sense that the upper portion of the building that's taller will push some shade on the other part of the roof. There are roofing penetrations. And so we can get limited bang for the buck or limited offset. We can only, if we looked at both of those, we only can offset maybe 20% of the site's use. So we did look at installing, these would be then these blue boxes here in your parking lots would be carport mounted arrays. So there are commercially available prefabricated carport structures where you can mount solar on top of them. They'll provide some shade and some rain protection for vehicles underneath. And we wanted to look at all options. So we looked at an option at 5th and K Street. We also looked at option 1 would be, one of the parking lots, one of the blue boxes that you see at 6th and L, or you could really build out and build both of these. Now you did hear Kelly's and city staff's caveat about these having, I believe, and this is where I'm not a specialist, but I believe these are designated in the housing element for other uses. That said, we looked at every option. We came out and looked at shading at these sites. We looked at how much of your site you could offset. One of the things you'll see is our final number here is simple payback. What we do is we just say in the simplest terms, meaning the ones you can see in front of you, if this was your project cost of $76,000 and it saved you $3,500 a year, that would take 21.9 years to pay back. The reason some are better than others is that roof mounted solar arrays are less expensive because the building and the structure already exists. And carport mounted arrays are a little more expensive because you have the extra structural cost of adding carports. And I know that could be a lot. This is the first of the 3 sites we look at. So maybe just in the interest of making sure I don't overwhelm people with the fire hose of information or we lose something, could just pause there. And I see at least one hand, Scott, Council Member Bauer, I think is how you do this.
Yeah, Councilmember Bauer.
Sorry, I was looking at the numbers and playing.
Okay.
Questions right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions right now before he moves on? Okay, Councilmember Castellano.
I mean, I guess I'll ask it now. I'm just curious, if the 6th and L carport arrays, if we are going to put housing there, if we could mandate in the RFP for the housing that there would be arrays put on top of the housing. And then, assuming maybe the housing is as tall as City Hall, you could potentially get, more arrays on top of it.
And those are things that are probably, city staff will know a lot about your housing element and how permitting and requirements go forward. I will say that there are part of California's Title 24 energy codes does have some mandatory solar ready and mandatory solar provisions. I don't have those details ready now, but I do think that is can be a part of future planning for new construction. And I think it's a very smart part of planning for future and new construction.
All right, it looks like you can move ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for helping navigate the questions. And so that was the first site that we looked at. The second site that we looked at, my slide calls it High Tank. I heard Kelly calling it Tank Farm. This site is also another large power user. We looked again at maximizing every little square inch we could. So we started with rooftop mounted arrays, but the roof and the building is not your, it's a, I think I heard it described as a classroom building. It has limited roof space for installation. The city is planning to build a fueling canopy here. So that would be another existing building, another good potential area for installation. And then we really did just try to push this and think, well, again, we could go with the previously mentioned carport mounted arrays. And there are a similar version of that that just mounts on the ground. They don't have to be tall enough to allow parking underneath them, but they look very similar to carport mounted arrays. And so those areas are drawn again and labeled. And then we went through the same process here. South and east facing arrays on the roof have, limited benefit. You start to really carve into making a difference here with the carport and the fuel canopy. But again, I want to point out, this is a big energy user. I mean, you pump a lot of water, you have a big city facility here. So, we're doing what we can to be environmentally responsible. There are other benefits at this site that, the shift to solar can sometimes allow you to be eligible for different utility rates. And you'll see a lower payback period. Now that I've walked you through the tables, I hope I don't go too fast. But one of the things you see with this site is that the payback period is a little lower and a little better than at City Hall. And that's because of the electric utility rate that this site is on. And that has to do with everything from your max demand to your time of use. You're eligible for certain rates. And we think the high tank site is eligible for a better rate. So there could be some synergistic benefits by going solar there. We didn't really quantify them. They're already on a better rate today than say City Hall is. And so we wanted to, again, the thing to think about is even if we're not getting to 100% of our offset here, what some of the benefits that we see are that these systems would be paired with batteries. And my final slide will talk about what are some of those benefits. So I just want you to hold that as a little placeholder, that remember why we're looking at these sites. And to make it a little more exciting at the end, we'll talk about some of those synergistic benefits of pairing solar, the potential of pairing solar at these sites with the battery systems that will be installed there. So the last site's going to look a little different, and it's perhaps a polar opposite in some sense. This is the water treatment plant. It has a lot of roof, more roof than you would need to offset 100% of the electricity used at that site. Now, there are some concerns about the quality of the roof, so we can't say 100% that this is easy, like when I stated earlier that roof-mounted arrays are easy. There's still some questions about what would have to be done to reinforce this roof. But in my pictures kind of represent about how much of that roof we would need to not only offset the electric use at the water treatment plant, but if you'll see in my table, it says, and the zoo. And that's because there are some net energy metering rules through our CEA and PG&E that allow us to aggregate more than one account together if the sites touch each other by parcel boundary. And the zoo parcel and the water treatment plant parcel, through the park are close enough that they share that parcel boundary. And I feel like this one is a nice one. We can get to 100% offset, not just of the water treatment plant. We can think about offsetting electricity use virtually from the zoo as well. And through a crediting mechanism, you get your bill credited at the zoo for energy that's produced here at the water treatment plant. And it is on a much more favorable rate for solar. This is your A1 rate. So the rates we looked at were an E19 rate at City Hall. That's a commercial, it's an industrial rate. We looked at you're probably eligible for the A10 electric rate at the high tank location or the tank farm location. This is your A1 electric rate. It is just a more solar friendly rate. And so the payback period here, this has a lot of benefits. It not only do you get to 100% offset, you get a payback period that's lower, meaning this project makes more financial sense when you just look at it as an investment only. Now, at the Energy Committee, I personally, but also as an agency, we don't just look at the investment value, although we are here. I believe that these projects should be financially responsible. So we only roll out these options if we really believe that they are financially responsible, meaning they would pay for themselves within the life of the project and generate some savings to the city over the life of that project. So these are like the summary of the three sites. and then, like I said, just at the end, I will say, so that beyond the benefits that we saw there. So let's say at this site, if we thought that we could avoid or save $55,000 a year from the water tank and the zoo, it would pay back in 14 years. We would be offsetting 100% of the energy. You know, these are some of the benefits we're describing. You know, generating 285,000 kilowatt hours of renewable energy on site. In addition to those benefits, we would see that if you took all these projects together, it was hard to slice and dice them now at this point, no menus. If you took them all together, we'd get about 800 metric tons of CO2 equivalent, you know, offset or reduction over the life of these projects. For each site, the solar on site would add between 2 to 8 hours of added resiliency, meaning added emergency power for your battery bank. So there's one of those synergistic benefits. So maybe if we're at the high tank location, we're going to think 2 hours added benefit because we have some limited amount of solar compared to the load. When we talk about the water treatment plant where we have a large solar array compared to the site use, you might add 8 hours of added emergency resiliency to your battery system. So that's another benefit to pairing solar with storage with those batteries that you're going to have. Solar shifting, right now there's a time of use change in the energy industry. PG&E is rolling out new time of use rates, and you might have heard some of this messaging. Our new peak period when electricity will be most expensive is going to be 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. In February, just a couple days ago, it was noon to 6. Solar does better on the noon to 6 period. And so what we can see is if you have batteries on site, you'd be charging your batteries when energy is really cheap or free from solar. And you could discharge those batteries later during this new peak, 4 to 9, when your solar is really not doing that much. But your batteries allow you to shift some of that solar energy and you get some load shifting or solar shifting benefits. Now, solar doesn't carry those, so I did not quantify them. I wanted you to see the true cost and benefit of solar when we made the tables and we run our analytics for whether these projects pay back. We look at them in a standalone. Again, just letting you know there are added benefits. And then this was kind of the like, oh, sorry, went too fast. This was just really nice to find. We do our rate analysis. We look at all of our customers. We can use some tools to look at whether you're on the best rate, whether A1 or E19 is right for you. And we think that shifting at the high tank location to that A10 rate, even if you didn't do solar, I think we found a needle in a haystack there where we think we could advise you on just get on a better rate at the high tank location. That could provide annual rate savings of $8,000 to $10,000 a year. Now, we still want you to think about going solar. I still think solar is the right move, but again, this is some of the benefits of doing these really deep dives into energy analysis that that we did with staff. We found, you know, it's not the needle in the haystack because I wasn't really looking for it, but we found an unpolished gem. How about that? And we want to bring it to your attention. So that is now the end of our show. Thank you, Kelly, for providing the slides, and the thematic kind of continuity across the slides tonight was helpful. And then now maybe if there's more questions, I will stop my sharing.
All right, thank you so much. It looks like Councilmember Bauer.
Great presentation, Mike. I had a couple questions. The tank at the high tank location, the big one, the ground tank, I know there's some shading issues there, right, with trees.
Yes.
But if that were eliminated, is that a potential on that tank, or does that tank have other issues that we couldn't, you know, load up with solar?
I think that's probably a question for your engineering staff. I had looked at that once for the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, and their staff on the ground did not want the penetrations, and installing solar generally involves penetrating the roof surface. And with a tank, that they said, you know, not on my tank, please, because we really work hard to keep that thing, and the water quality issues associated with that could be problematic.
Very good point. What about the big tank, you know, by the zoo we're talking about? I mean, is there penetration issues there, you know? And
it's flat, so one could look at what they call a ballasted system, where there's just a weight that holds the racking in the solar to the roof. On a flat roof, it's very common to not penetrate that roof. And from what little I looked at it, I think there might be a way to anchor. So one of the questions though, and I think I alluded to that, it's not a slam dunk, that more Staff would have to do more research, and before that research is done and that next step is taken, I think here we are to get direction before we go to that next step and can really answer that question better in the future, I think.
Yeah, because I could see that location. Why not, if we can do it and we can retrofit the tank, why not do the whole thing in solar panels, you know?
And there is a reason for that, which is once we go beyond 100% offsetting your site electricity use, the payback goes way down.
Okay.
So this is the nature of net energy metering, means that if we just limit it to the site use in the zoo, say that, you get your full retail value for those solar credits that you generate. When you're not using energy and you're overproducing in the summer months, you get a full retail credit. Once you overproduce, you go back to wholesale prices, and it's, you know, about a very diminished return, something like 2 or 3 cents per kilowatt hour versus 14 to 24 cents a kilowatt hour. So we don't advise overproducing, even though you have that massive roof there, because the economic value would really, we would just be importing that back to PG&E's grid, which would be good for the grid. I don't know that it would be economically good for the city beyond just, you know, dealing with your own site use.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I will open it up to public comment. I believe we had one person who wanted to make a comment on this. Kellyanne, I see your thing lit up. Did you want to say something before we go to public comment? Okay. Assistant City Manager Powell, do we have
No, Mayor, I don't see anyone with their hand up.
okay. All right, then I will bring it back to council for comments and or a motion. Anybody? Councilmember Bauer.
I'll make the motion to receive the report and direct staff to proceed with the loan application to the California Energy Commission.
Councilmember Moulton.
What sort of direction does staff need? Do we need to do that now?
Yeah, at this point, the motion was just to direct staff to proceed with the letter, and it wasn't actually directing staff to do anything. So we could probably finish the motion and then talk to staff about.
You want me to finish the motion?
Well, I don't know if I think we want to provide direction to staff regarding site selection, which is a conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't know that conversation has to be within that's separate from the motion that you're making. So I think we can do the motion first and the discussion after. I don't know if there's a rule that we can't do that.
No, I would think actually that Councilmember Moulton's right, because site selection does matter on a loan application. I think the 6th Street location, right, is going to be
very good point. Okay.
So I rescind that motion if that works.
And do we have any comments about direction to staff on the site selection? Councilmember Bauer.
Well, I think probably one of the issues, right, is and I wasn't involved in the housing element in that location. Is it the 6th Street array? Is that what I'm talking about, where there's potential for housing?
Yes.
That would seem not logical to put that into a loan application if that's going to be housing. So I think the rest of the locations seem fine, but I think any motion would need to exclude that array, even though it provides a ton of power, you know, clean energy. Maybe Director.
City Manager Slattery.
I also believe that the 5th and K Street parking lot, correct? Director Gerving is also on the slate for housing as well.
Yeah, and both of those are pretty far down the list of city-owned sites that will be offered up as affordable housing. So I think the sense that I'm getting from all this discussion is that you're directing staff to move forward full bore with anything that looks feasible based on what you've been presented tonight, right? And if it turns out that these parking lots aren't great because of the long-term plans for housing, fine. If it looks like we can expand something at the tank farm, let's do it. And whatever is feasible at water treatment. So if that's sort of the consensus, then that's the direction we'll proceed.
Councilmember Arroyo.
I mean, in general, I agree with that, what was just stated, that, you know, and I trust that staff have a little bit more context about each specific site and its site requirements, but I'm just a little bit, the staff recommendation in our agenda is around moving forward with the first 3 sites, which are listed as City Hall, the high tank, and the water treatment plant, but it sounds a little bit like you're saying there are some other options. Is that correct?
No, I'm just suggesting that between those sites and what Mike presented today, this evening, there was a little bit of variability in what's actually going to work at each site as we fine tune like a design and all of that. So it's that kind of working the options in between the sites. At this point, staff isn't recommending to look at other sites. Those have been evaluated, but we want to try this loan program out with a select number of potential facilities, and those that have the battery backup systems in the works make sense to do that. So that's why we're starting with these 3, and we'll just fine tune the particulars of each one, and we'll go forward with that.
That sounds great to me. I was just, yeah, when I read the agenda summary and then saw the presentation, I was like, oh, City Hall is like 10 potential sites. I mean, it's like an amalgamation of potential installations making up one site. So it really seemed hard for, looking at the figures, hard for me to really figure out what was the most feasible. But yes, I'm in support of staff really working on the feasibility and fine tuning that. So thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
Does anybody else have any comments, especially about Director Gerving's interpretation of direction? If not, then maybe we can go forward. I will invite you, Councilmember Bauer, to restate your motion if you'd like.
Oh, geez. How do we, let's see. I would make a motion. Oh man, I should have wrote down, Brian, what you said. To proceed, make a motion for staff to proceed with, oh man. Anybody want to help with this? Natalie?
I can do it.
Go for it.
Well, it's written in here.
We'll let Councilmember Moulton do it.
Oh, good. I want to make a motion here. I move that we direct staff to continue the scoping, designing, and application process for the first 3 sites and authorize the Director of Public Works as agent of the City of Eureka to sign and file all required documentation for the California Energy Commission's 1% interest loan.
Right on. Councilmember Bauer, would you like to second that?
Yes, I would.
If we have no other discussion, maybe we could move forward with a vote. So Assistant City Manager Powell, would you please call vote?
Councilmember Castellano?
Aye.
Councilmember Moulton?
Aye.
Councilmember Arroyo?
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer?
Aye.
Councilmember Burgell?
Yes.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming out and helping to present.
Yeah, thanks for your time, everyone.
There you are.
Very exciting to work with you.
Good to see you. Councilmember Moulton, do you have a question?
I just wanted to cheer or say thank you for putting the city's money where its mouth is on climate change, not only addressing the effects, but addressing the causes. And that makes me really proud.
Yay. Thank you very much. Well, guess where we are, guys? We are on the last item on the agenda. We're moving on to city manager reports. And so I will now invite City Manager Slattery.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a quick thing, and then we're going to get to an update for Cooper Gulch and the grant application that Community Services is working on. But and Susan, Mayor Seaman, it would have been fine for you to steal my thunder. I was just joking. But at the end of the strategic visioning, I just want everyone to know that the consultants, both Mary and Roger, heard everyone loud and clearly. And so Assistant City Manager Powell and I had a meeting with them, and what we plan on doing is putting together another agenda and having a special meeting. We are going to check with council and make sure that this is fine, but tentatively right now we're looking at March 30th at 5 o'clock, which is the off Tuesday for council. But Assistant City Manager Powell will get out to you, and we'll try and solidify a date. And once we do, we'll agendize it and get it out to the public and let them know that there'll be one more crack at the apple, or one more bite at the apple, not crack, excuse me. So without further ado, I want to welcome Director Wood, as well as Project Coordinator Prasker. She has a new title, so I'm sorry if I butchered that, Robin. And they are going to give an update on the status of the grant that they're going to be going after for Prop 68 for Cooper Gulch.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Program Coordinator Prasker and myself have actually 3 very brief park updates to share with you all, and we will go ahead and get started with a quick update on 2030 Park.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you may recall, we were awarded a $6.3 million grant for 2030 Park, made possible through a competitive grant program by Prop 68. So we want to provide a quick update of where staff are at administering the grant. So we're actually currently accepting proposals from design professionals to formally design the park. You can see the conceptual design here on this slide, which is a preliminary plan for the park. And actually at our next council meeting, we're going to be bringing you our selected design contractor to approve so that we can begin formally designing the park. We plan to have all the design work done by the end of this year and begin construction early next year, with the grand opening tentatively slated for early 2023. Next up is Cooper Gulch Park. We wanted to share that the same grant program that staff were successful in applying for 2030 Park has a new round of funding, and we are going to be applying for Cooper Gulch Park. There's actually even more money available this round, with a max ask of $8.5 million. Staff conducted an extensive community input process with many meetings and a survey with over 600 responses. We've had many community partners throughout this process, which shows how much buy-in the community has for improving this public space. Cooper Gulch Common Grounds has been working with city staff for many years now, helping create a vision for the park. And staff embarked on an awesome new partnership with the Humboldt County Office of Education. They provided a language specialist to help with interpretation and translation services related to park outreach. They provided not only translation of flyers, but also interpretation during the meetings. And this is an exciting addition to the way that we reach the community, with plans to continue this type of outreach. So we wanted to share the major improvements that are slated for the application. Some major things like a new playground for 2 different age groups, new trail development, new restrooms, picnic and barbecue areas. So a lot of big things that you find in parks that we're looking to update this park with. The application is submitted very soon here, March 12th of this month, and we hope to win about our winning application early fall in about September. So I'm going to hand it off to Director Wood, who's going to tell you some very exciting things happening at Sequoia Park.
All right, so Sequoia Park improvements are rocking and rolling. As you all may recall, staff conducted an extensive community input process for Sequoia Park over 2017 and 2018. This resulted in a conceptual design for the upper meadow. In 2019, staff were successful in a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant, which helped fund phase 1 improvements. In an effort to ensure we have solid, transparent communication with the public about all phases of the improvement project, staff are currently finalizing a 4x8 size billboard sign, which is slated to go up at the park very soon. Here is a sneak peek of that sign that will provide the reader with a little bit of history about the park, an overview of the 3 improvement phases, and a preview of potential park amenities. Phase 1 is currently underway. We expect it to be finished early summer, and the plan at this point is to launch a fundraising campaign for the next phase shortly thereafter. As you may have heard from staff previously, Sequoia Park is in a location of Eureka that makes it difficult to be eligible for many grants due to it not meeting 2 typical grant requirements, one being park deficiency and the other being household median income. This is why a community fundraising campaign is also currently being developed. Okay, that was a short and brief yet exciting update on 3 of your park projects that are happening now. Staff are available for questions.
It's always fun to see what you're doing. Does anybody have any questions? No, we're just soaking it in and loving it, Donna. That's what we're doing. Anybody have any comments? Because it's a report. Councilmember Bauer.
No, great job, Donna, Robin, Miles, everybody. Our parks are real gems, and I love seeing dirt flying out there at Redwood Park. So thank you, and look forward to seeing what's in store.
I just want to say I live near Hammond Park on 14th and F, and the change in the whole neighborhood after that was fixed up was just amazing. It was so exciting, and people seem to be taking care of it. I mean, you give somebody something nice and they appreciate that. So thank you so much. Councilmember Arroyo.
Sorry, took me a sec. This is really exciting, and thank you so much for all your work on this. I did have one question, actually. I was just thinking about Cooper Gulch and its proximity to, is it Ross Park? The one that's off? Yeah, okay. I had to think about that for a second. Is there any issue with like the proximity of those 2 parks for each other as far as funding? I know that Prop 68 really focuses on neighborhoods that don't have a lot of access to parks. So how is that kind of going to be handled or framed? Any thoughts on that?
Well, there is something called a community fact finder, and that is a source that the state uses to identify varying qualifying neighborhoods. And every time we go after a grant, we start with that fact finder report. And surprisingly, Cooper Gulch was the most competitive for this particular project in comparison to Ross Park. We do have some funds that are set aside. I know Ross Park Playground in particular is in dire need of some love. So that is slated in the near future to be addressed, the issues with the playground that folks may be aware of. But for this particular grant cycle, Cooper Gulch was the most competitive.
Okay. Oh, I actually thought of another question. I know people love to bring their dogs to a park, and many of our parks are formally, it's officially the case that you're not supposed to bring your dog, and there's a lot of dog use anyway, and people, there seem to be like good uses and some deleterious uses. So anyway, what are your thoughts? Is that something we need to reevaluate in the near future? Is our allowances of dogs at parks?
1000%. We absolutely need to reevaluate. It's on community services radar. We have a municipal code in some area, in some of our parks, that state quite clearly, no dogs allowed. And then we have doggy bags. And then we have signage that does support dogs on leashes. So we have some very inconsistent messaging that we all need to work together to improve. And I also think staff thinks moving forward, we in Humboldt County, this is a dog loving world. I've heard that Costco here in Eureka actually sells more dog food than any other place in America, which is crazy. I know. So I'm just curious that if as a group, all of us can join up and possibly identify Eureka as a dog friendly area, and really where can you go and where can't you go, and just really improve our signage overall. So we will be bringing forward a lot of research and checking out what other communities are doing, and are super open to feedback and thoughts. It's on the list, 1000%.
I'm excited to talk about it more. Yeah, definitely. As we talk about rehabbing, or not rehabbing, that sounds bad. Just freshening up our parks. I know that, you know, it's just something we need to look at, because people tell me all the time, I'd love to go to parks more. I have a lot of friends who don't have kids. And so it's like, what am I going to do at the park? I'm going to bring my dog. And so, you know, but I also realize there are some safety issues to consider as well. So I'm excited to talk about it, and thank you for letting us know it's on your radar.
Councilmember Castellano.
Thank you both for all of your work on this. I love parks, so it's always exciting to hear about them. You know, and I had never thought about like Eureka as a dog loving area, also potentially being a tourist attraction, you know, until you were saying, I was like, oh, people would probably plan their trip. Yeah, I mean, people do that, right? Like, anyway, just, I had never thought of that before. What I was going to say though is I feel like, and Director Wood, you and I did talk about this briefly, but the folks who live around 2030 Park would love to have some way of hearing more about it, you know, outside of a council meeting, just because it's something that folks ask me a lot about, of like, when is it going to happen? Can we give him, and I know there was already the big round of public input, but even, I don't know, just some way that people can kind of get excited and feel more ownership of the process, I think would be really fun for people, so.
All right, any other comments or questions? We appreciate you guys for everything that you do. And before I move on from city manager report though, because Assistant City Manager Powell, she was really hoping that it would be more than just she'll reach out to you later. She said that we can always get better results on meeting dates if we actually ask during a meeting. So for her, I will ask you, are you free on March 30th? Or do you know? All right, how's that look for you, Pam?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'll get the agenda out for that date.
Sorry, Assistant City Manager Powell.
No worries.
And with that, I will go ahead and move on to council member reports. And we will go ahead and start with Councilmember Castellano. We'll just go Ward 1.
All right. I forgot to jot down the notes of all the things I've been doing, but you know, continuing to participate in my regular round of meetings, including, REDEC, which I'm the board president now of REDEC, so that's kind of fun and exciting to be taking more of a leadership role within that organization. And continuing to go to the Community Economic Resilience Consortium, COVID Economic Resilience Consortium meetings, of which there's been a really active housing group that is very project motivated. So it's neat to kind of see the way the city is playing a role in these larger regional processes and projects. And I'm really proud of our city for being a leader, I think, in housing right now. I think a lot of people in the area are pretty impressed with the things that Eureka is doing, you know, and thinking about. I did have a group reach out to me about, there's a kind of statewide movement around, gosh, I opened up a link about it, hazard pay for grocery store workers. So that's something I think it could be beneficial to bring forward at a forthcoming council meeting. And I'm just curious if other council members would be interested in having that appear before council.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Could you repeat a portion of that? My internet was weird for a second.
Sure. My internet could be weird also, so it could be a compounding thing. That there's some groups looking, well, throughout the state, there have been, gosh, it's a growing number of communities that are creating ordinances around hazard pay, specifically for grocery workers, since the grocery business has been doing so well during the pandemic. Anyways, a community group approached me about whether the city would be interested in looking at something like that. So I'm just curious if other council members would be interested in learning more about it, potentially considering it.
So Leslie, I'm just curious. I have a meeting with them on Thursday. I'm curious, what exactly are you wanting to bring forward? Are you wanting to have an education piece? Are you wanting to have a letter written? Are you wanting, what exactly are we going to be, if it comes forward, discussing?
I mean, I don't know, I guess exactly. I imagine it would have some sort of education piece with an ordinance for consideration.
I'm a little hesitant. I also have a meeting with the same group. So I'm a little hesitant to ask for this until I hear more.
So why?
I agree with that.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Is that something then that I'm assuming if council members are interested, they would reach out to staff about? Great. And that is all that's on my radar.
Excellent, thank you. Councilmember Moulton.
Hello. I too spoke with that group and haven't really dug into their materials yet, but it sounds something like, something really temporary and really, well, we'll all talk more about it, I'm sure. But as far as my reports go, I recently, between the last strategic planning session and this meeting, had a meeting with the South Eureka Neighborhood Alliance along with City Manager Slattery, which was informative and enlightening. And I just want to encourage folks like that group and like the F Street group that, the thing I'm learning about our government is that we are super accessible and that you do have to get involved and, show up and make the comments and bring your concerns forward. So I encourage people to do that, especially if you live in the Second Ward, do call me, or the South Eureka Neighborhood Alliance, helping do some of the great work of building networks to get people's concerns up to where they need to, where something can actually be done about them. Sorry, there's a very loud game of tag going on in my house. And just real quick, I wanted to shout out, we talked today about International Women's Day. We got a great report from Betty Chin and the shelter over there for women and women with children. And I wanted to shout out to the Arcata Playhouse and their O2F Festival. It's the fourth one, their fourth annual festival. It's a 10-day event celebrating creative women in our community. And it's all centered around International Women's Day. So if you'd like to learn more about the awesome women in our community and our world and the great effect they have, then the O2F Festival at Arcata Playhouse would be a great place to see some really local gems showing off their work.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Bauer.
No, thank you. Yeah, some of the usual meetings. I did attend a meeting about long duration storage, which is really fascinating, actually, basically taking all of our wind energy, solar energy, and trying to giant battery systems so that we can use it, in emergencies and whatnot. So really interesting stuff going on in the world of sustainability. But my best thing I got to do was my wife and I, with the help of Hillary Mannion, a teacher at Zane, we took the teachers breakfast the morning they had to go back to school to prepare, and it was just really cool to see all the Zane teachers and talk to them about trying to get back to somewhat of a little bit of normalcy for our kids and the challenges that they face. And then the correlation of that, of seeing kids today walking home from school, it really feels good. Our kids need to be in school, and it's a challenge to make it safe. But I think they're doing a great job, and the teachers, are really, it's really challenging. And we support them, and it's great to have the kids back and seeing their friends. And I think it's a really positive thing, and fun to get them back. So that's about it, really. Lots of other stuff going on, but that's the fun stuff.
Excellent, thank you. Councilmember Burgell.
Thank you. I just wanted to give you a bit of an update about things happening at the zoo. So the Redwood Skywalk, they're waiting now for the certificate of occupancy, and they are working on signage. They're also waiting to begin their beta testing. So once they've kind of gotten through with that, and also this whole process with the COVID, figuring that out, they're not sure of an open date yet, but we're hopeful that it's coming sooner than later. Also, if you haven't been over there, they're putting a new ticket booth in there, and it's really quite lovely. And they have 2 baby flamingos, which are fabulous. They're all gray and they're molting, and they're so fuzzy. When you see a baby flamingo, they're all fuzzy. You just want to pet them. Let's see. So I think that is what is happening. Oh, and then Boo the spotted skunk has been very famous lately. In fact, a lady from Oregon or Washington painted a painting of her. I don't know if you guys have seen her, but she's been on the news, and she's so adorable. So I wanted to just kind of give you some updates there. That the Skywalk, they still are working to get that open. There are some things that, COVID really threw a wrench in that, but they're really working hard to make that happen. Let's see, I also, we did complete the perilous plunge, and our team jumped twice because our member got a special donation for a friend of a team member, of a team member that lost her life several years ago. And so that was really, the second jump was more special. It really meant a lot. Let's see. And then the last thing that I wanted to just mention, because I think it's important, is that I just wanted to say for a moment that I was very sorry to read about the loss of Hal Lowry. And any of you that have lived here and for any amount of time, he was the DJ of the whole, he was just the amazing DJ. He was a great guy. He used to work at Old Town Bar and Grill and do parties when I was in high school. Just a great community member, and really contributed a lot. And it's a great loss to our community. So I wanted to mention that. And then the last thing, because there's always one more thing, is that Bowl for Kids' Sake is happening. I couldn't get it together this year to get a team, but I will post a donation site on my page. They're always looking for donations. They're a wonderful organization that really support our youth. And that's what we need to be doing now, is supporting our youth. And speaking of that, I have one more thing. It always goes that way, but today was the first day of school at Eureka High. And I just, I was very nervous about that, and it went awesome. The kids were great. The teachers were great. There was a lot of social distancing. It was just a really positive experience, as Scott was saying, just seeing kids seeing each other for the first time in forever. It really warmed the heart. So that is the final thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Arroyo.
I just wanted to share that we've been in the strategic planning process throughout February and spent a lot of time on that, and staff really did a phenomenal job, and council of doing work in between meetings too, but staff did a huge amount of work, and thank you so much for, and have had a chance to have some good conversation. I'm really looking forward to next week's meeting. 2 council members are going to be meeting with the 2 board of 2 county supervisors who represent Eureka. And so we're reinitiating those 2x2 meetings and really looking forward to talking about shared challenges. And it's just a great opportunity to kind of connect around the decisions we make that affect Eureka. So if anyone has thoughts about that, I welcome you to reach out to myself or Councilmember Burgell to bring up specific questions or concerns. And looking forward to doing that with staff as well. I really don't have much else to report. I just wanted to say thank you to those of you who did the tree planting, the Keep Eureka Beautiful tree planting. I was not able to participate this time around, but it was really, really amazing to see so many trees go in the ground. So thank you so much for that. And I think that I'll leave it there for now. This is a great meeting to touch on some topics that are near and dear to my heart. So I feel really uplifted and I don't know, just looking forward to working together.
Excellent. I'm so glad you mentioned the tree planting because Leslie was obviously very involved in that. And I went down and I was going to talk about it, but I don't know, sometimes in the world of the city, that seems like a year ago. It's just a couple weeks ago. So thanks for mentioning that. And it is 8:03. It would be time for a break normally, but we actually get to adjourn. So yay. See y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Take care.